Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and it's time for another professional best of 3 series of StarCraft 2. And what I got for you today is a Zerg versus Protoss between two of the very best in their respective races. Spawning here in game number 1 on Blackpink Alley in the bottom left hand corner of the map and playing with the blue Zerg drones. We have the current world champion of StarCraft 2 and he goes by the name of Rogue. And his opponent, spawning in the opposite corner, one of the greatest Protoss players of all time, and a lot of people currently call him the very best in his respective race. Of course, I am talking about none other than Hero. Now, I've already noticed that both of these players, right, are playing under a barcode. And every single time there are indeed players playing under a barcode nickname, I see a lot of people asking in the comment section, like, hey, why are their names just a bunch of lines? Why is that, you know, they got a clan tag that says, for example, right here, Rogue 1? That doesn't quite reference Star Wars, I don't think, or maybe it does, I'm not entirely sure. But why exactly do these players play under a bunch of lines, and why exactly do they join a clan that still reveals who they are anyway? So the first part of that question is going to be, of course, the barcode section. Why do players play under a bunch of these squiggly lines or a bunch of these straight up lines? Why is it that players are trying to hide their ID? Well, the reason for that is that, in particular, if you look at the Korean Grandmaster ladder, you will quickly notice that about, like, I would probably say like 80% or so of the players on that ladder, or at the very least 80% of the accounts on that ladder, are going to be barcode players. And essentially the original idea behind it is that since in StarCraft 2 you cannot quite hide your idea, and you can never quite, you know, hide exactly what your nickname is, if every pro gamer plays under the same nickname of just a bunch of lines, oftentimes it will become very difficult to analyze who it is you are going up against. Now, oftentimes people will still be able to figure out who's who. There's actually a website called SC2 Unmasked, where people literally just went into the replay file after playing a game and they checked out the hotkey patterns and they analyzed the games and they figured out, you know, where players are hotkeying what and you know, how they are moving around the camera. You can still figure out who's who anyway, but it definitely does help when you're practicing for a tournament, or for example, when you're, you know, preparing for like a best of 5 or a best of 3 series. If you're hiding your ID for a little while, just because you may very well be facing off against your opponent on the ladder as well, who will likely be practicing hard too. The thing is, if you're a top of the line Korean pro gamer like both of these guys are, it is very common to meet the same people over and over and over again, right? I mean, there's only a few that you can really face off against in the first place, so it's better to just simply hide, at the very least make it a little bit more difficult as to who it is you're going up against. Now, as to the question why apparently Hero right here is in clan Hero and Rogue is in clan Rogue 1, the reason for that is quite straightforward. Both of these players, of course, do participate in online tournaments. For example, tournaments from Bo3 TV or Wardy TV or any of the Twitch live streamers, as well as a bunch of other online cups. Oftentimes, these kind of online tournaments will force the players that are participating under a barcode account to temporarily join a clan to indicate who they actually are. So Rogue apparently is temporarily, for the duration of this tournament, going to be in clan Rogue 1, and Hero is gonna be in clan Hero. It's just to make it a little bit easier for the tournament organizers, because if you've got, like, you know, 8 barcodes facing off against each other in the top 8, which, you know, isn't absolutely unheard of, it gets pretty complicated pretty fast. And since players in these kind of tournaments oftentimes aren't really allowed to use all too many skins anyway, although in this particular game it turns out that Hero is indeed going to be running a couple of skins. Usually a lot of the more serious online tournaments are gonna, you know, ask and suggest to the players that they at the very least don't play any of the skins that are available in SC2. Players just simply log into an account where they know they've got those skins disabled already by default. It's all pretty minor, but I think it is, once again, worth explaining pretty easily, just because I know that quite a few people do indeed have questions when it comes to these kinds of subjects. Now, a bunch of Zerglings already trying to make their way across the map. I mean, I've been pretty quiet about the state of the game so far, and the reason for that is that both Rogue and Hero are opening up very, very standardly. We see quick expansions here from the Zerg player, as well as quick expansions from the Protoss. Not, of course, quite as quickly as the Zerg, but already a third Nexus at the 4.5 minute mark. Most definitely is an indication that Hero is planning to play at least a bit more of a macro-focused game. Of course, we did see him opening up with that Stargate. The Stargate are very, very helpful. There's currently 1 Phoenix out, as well as 2 more Oracles. They're going to be great for defensive play, but also for offensive play. Once again, though, Rogue going for a bunch of Zerglings. Rogue, of course, I mean, like I said, he's the current world champion of StarCraft 2. He's extremely strong. And while some people have suggested that he may very well go into a bit of a slump now because he got eliminated from the GSL Code S, I mean, I don't think that's particularly fair. This man is an absolute monster. He's very good at what he does. And we'll have to see how 2018 goes for him. But there's no denying that, you know, he's very strong. He knows exactly what it is that he needs to do. Now, already, we see Hero at the 5-minute mark adding on a fleet beacon. So I wouldn't be surprised that this is another one of those results, right, of players just simply facing off against each other continuously. Because Rogue, I mean, he's a player who likes to go for example, roach-based timing attacks. He likes to go for these aggressive moves after he gets his drone count up. And we already see carriers being produced at the 5-minute mark. Usually, we see Protoss players making them off of 3 Stargates. This time around, though, Hero is going for 3 bases rather than 4 and going for a double Stargate instead. It is now up to Rogue to figure out exactly what it is he's going up against, because if he is not aware of what's going on, right, and he will just simply be caught with his pants down, he is gonna be in a world of hurt. He saw the first Stargate, he has not seen the follow-up with the fleet beacon just yet. And this could most definitely become a bit of an issue, because Rogue is already making a bunch of roaches. Glider Reconstitution, not actually created just yet. The lair is done. There we go. We do finally see the +1 missile upgrade coming up here for Zerg, as well as the roach speed upgrade, which is very, very helpful. 4th base now already being constructed as well for Rogue. But, I mean, he's been making a lot of units. He's been making a bunch of drones as well. But he does not know about these Stargates just yet. And that could definitely become an issue. I mean, if you've been playing StarCraft 2 yourself and you've been trying out the Zerg pieces, you probably have engaged off against, for example, a Protoss player who goes for a bunch of Stargate. It is very difficult to stop. And Hero, is he really going to show his hand already? It looks like he's just simply sending these carriers straight across the map. Now, they do have their upgrade finished up right now. Zerg does not know about any of this just yet, and I actually think that these units, oh, look at that. These oracles are clearing a path for these carriers to make their way to the 4th base location of the Zerg. Currently, Zerg does not know about this just yet, and Rogue is gonna be caught with his pants down right now, although Hydras are already on the production tab as well. I think that Rogue must have figured out that something cheeky was going on, but now we see carriers harassing a 4th base location, and of course, carriers are very good when it comes to picking off these bases very rapidly. There's a bunch of these oracles still available as well, and I love this. A little bit of creativity when it comes to playing the Protoss units in the Stargate army. It's actually something that we haven't seen a whole lot of, and of course this is a very small investment, right? Just a little bit of energy, forcing the Zerg player to go for a lot more army than the drones that he was looking for. At the same time, though, the roaches have now made their way across the map. They've already taken care of a little bit of this army, but there are now 3 additional carriers just about to finish up, and Hero is in firm control of this early to mid game of this match. I'm actually really impressed by this, right? This is not something we've seen before. I loved the way that these oracles were clearing out a path for the Protoss army to move across the map with. But there's no denying that at this point in the game, right, there are 80 workers out here for the Zerg. He's got 6 gas geysers in total right now, bringing in those resources, and that means that there's room for a ton of Hydralisk. Rogue is gonna try and shut this down before it maxes out. And speaking of matching out, right now, right, Hero is only at 140 supply. He doesn't have a ton of stuff. He's making a lot of additional gateways, but the cost of these carriers early on is absolutely enormous. There is no Psionic Storm available, and here come the interceptors. Immediately, though, Rogue is going to try and land some of those corrosive biles as well, using the Hydras to just simply pick off all of these interceptors. And while this looked like a really cute early game here from the Protoss player in red, it seems like there may very well just be a little bit too much Zerg. At the same time, though, the oracles went in and they decided to go after a bunch of those drones, but already the Zerg army is knocking at the 3rd base of the Protoss player, and I think that Rogue just simply looked at that army and is like, LOL, what if I just make a bunch of Hydras and go kill you? What if it is morph in a couple of Ravages and rain some Biles and kill your Interceptors? Because I know you cannot replace them fast enough. And all of a sudden, Rogue is going to be he's going to be able to just simply overwhelm the third base. And Protoss is going to be knocked back to the Stone Age. Now, I think the single Archon can bring quite a bit of damage in as well. There are still a lot of carriers available, however. They have mostly remade all of their Interceptors as well. But these Corrosive Biles are providing an awful lot of value. Zerglings now made their way through that front door though, and they are now nibbling away at the probes in the natural mineral line as well. We see another one of those carriers falling now to the Corrosive Biles, and Rogue, he's just simply gonna reinforce this with more and more Hydralisk, forcing his way into the natural expansion as Hero is forced to GG out of game number 1. I gotta say though, props to Rogue in that previous match for making that super quick decision to go for that push. I mean, if he would have waited like another 30 seconds, right, or if he would have been a little bit indecisive, Protoss probably would have been able to get like an additional 3 carriers out, and I think that an additional 24 Interceptors would have just been a little bit too much. And we all know what would have happened there if the third base didn't fall and like say an additional 3 carriers would have come out in the first place. Protoss is gonna max out on Stargate based units, and it's very difficult to stop once it maxes out. So props to Rogue right there for you know, just making that very quick decision. I personally probably would have been a little bit more indecisive. I probably would have considered teching up towards the Hive to get those +3 upgrades, to maybe go up to Vipers, maybe get a Spire, go for like Corruptors, get some armor upgrades on those Corruptors, whereas apparently the correct option there was to just simply make a lot of Hydras and move across the map, right? Try and get there in, or try and get in there as soon as possible and take care of that Protoss army once and for all before it was capable of maxing out. Very cheeky move there by Protoss though. I love that smart little play there. I think actually if Hero would have been able to maybe get those gateways out just a little bit faster, right? Or maybe if he would have played just a little bit less greedy and went for some more tech structures before going straight until straight up to like the carrier number, right? I think he might have had a bit of a better chance in that particular game as well. But regardless, here we are on Neon Violet Square. Now, while Black-Pink is widely considered to be more of like a standard macro map, this map usually is even more macro-focused. Just because it is this corner expansion, the one in the top left and the bottom right-hand corner, it's only got 4 mineral patches, but it does have 2 fully functioning gas geysers, which can really change the outcome of the game quite a bit. Now, Rogue apparently decided that he doesn't want to take that bottom right-hand base as his third, and instead decides to expand towards the northern end. The reason for this is not only just the amount of mineral patches there, but also the creep spread. I mean, if you start your creep spread from the natural, or if you start it from the third base, for obvious reasons, right? By the time the Protoss can go for a timing attack, you can spread the creep significantly out, you know, throughout the map. So usually we will indeed see players not taking that base in the bottom right-hand corner, or at the very least Zerg players not take the base in the bottom right-hand corner until quite a little bit later on into the game. Now Hero, now also mixing it up a little bit right there with the robotics facility positioning. Maybe he realized that in game number 1, Rogue decided to not really focus on the Nematized Carapace upgrade, and this is one of the last locations that Rogue will be checking for. It's not even that big of a deal, right? But I guess if you're, you know, planting down a pylon, for example, right behind that mineral line to go for like a shield battery later on as well, I guess you may as well just go ahead and put up the robotics facility there. It's a little bit cheeky, but it most definitely can become a bit of a nuisance here for the Zerg, as Zerg will have a hard time figuring out what it is that he is going up against. Now, I highly doubt, though, that Rogue is going to be taking any kind of damage in the earlier stages of the game. I mean, this guy is just so good when it comes to playing defensively. But then again, Hero is known to pull rabbits out of hats as well, just because he usually does go for some pretty wonky strategies. Now the Adepts though, I was gonna say, are they gonna commit to shading there? Just scaring those drones, making them run for their lives for just a bit. But apparently he did decide to just simply sit back, as a lot of Zerglings were ready to come in with the wraparound. Link speed just finishing up, and now that Rogue doesn't know what it is he's going up against, right? Look at that. He sacrificed an Overlord into the main base and saw absolutely nothing. Didn't even see the base in the top left here either. He was forced to go for those blind Spore Crawlers just because there's a chance that it's gonna be Dark Templar, just because it's a chance that there are gonna be Oracles and whatnot as well. This is actually pretty tricky right now for Rogue. Like, what exactly do you do if you're the Zerg player right now? Well, apparently, you just plot down a lot of additional drones. Rogue, though, just simply trying to figure out whether or not there is an additional expansion taken now here for the Protoss player in red. But this is where the game becomes tricky, because Hero is just gonna have free reign of the map. I mean, for all that Rogue knows, there may very well be a base in the top left-hand corner, and I think that's exactly what we see Hero doing right now as well. Now, Hero apparently is gonna follow this up with a bit of Immortal play, and then maybe a War Prism as well. I wonder if he's planning to go for some drop shenanigans. Obviously, you can micro these units like no tomorrow, right? It functions very similarly to Archons, because they still have a lot of shields available too, but they're very good at knocking down those bases. The thing about Oracles, however, or rather about Archons, however, is that they deal splash damage. Beautiful scout there, by the way, by Rogue, just simply figuring out exactly what it is he's going up against immediately. Although, I don't know if he was paying attention to the mini-map at that point in time. I think he did, because the Lings are already running back home. But you can just simply surround the Immortal, and you know, it won't really be able to shut it down nearly as easily as a lot of these you know, Archons can be, because they deal splash damage. So immediately, once again, forcing that pickup right there is Rogue. But what Hero is doing really smartly right now is buying time. He gets to play the game as he likes it, and that's the thing, right? Hero is a very scary macro Protoss. Some might even consider him to be the scariest macro Protoss on the planet, because this guy's late game is insanely strong. He's just trying to buy some time, builds up his economy. He's gonna go and transition towards that very standard mid to late game Protoss army. Going for the Twilight Council right now. We'll have to see if he's going for like an Immortal Archon based composition, or if he's planning to, for example, go up to Colossus, or maybe even Disruptors, or anything along those lines. But this definitely does have all the telltale signs of a macro focused Zerg versus Protoss. Zerg now, though, simply just making a lot more links. Once again, we see the Hydralisk Den coming in. There's already the Glio Reconstitution coming up right now as well for Rogue, which is the Roach speed upgrade. So he's going to be capable of going for a bit of a push. The thing is, though, ooh, nice around there, but immediately picked up once more. The thing is, though, what exactly are you going to push into if you're a Zerg player right here, right? Do you really want to move up that ramp? I mean... You know, Anakin showed us how that turns out. If you push up a ramp, it just doesn't work out. And this choke over here, pretty tricky too. Really what that means, though, is that Rogue is not going to be capable of achieving a whole lot, not until he, at the very least, gets himself, you know, going up against 4 base Protoss, right? Not until the 4th base is taken here. Ooh, nice little snipe there, actually. Not until the 4th base is taken here by Protoss can Rogue really do anything. And that means we get to pay some attention here to what it is that Hero wants to go ahead and do. He's done some great sniping on those creep tumors so far into this game. Really just trying to slow down the crew spread of the Zerg, and doing so successfully as well. He will be able to figure out shortly that there is going to be another expansion taken here for the Zerg player in blue, but right now he's confirmed that there is no base in the bottom right hand corner and also no hive. So that means he is likely going to go up against a more mid-game Zerg focused army. Lings once again moving across. A couple of these Immortals apparently walked all the way home. Did they... No, the War Prism was just standing there. I was going to say, did they accidentally, like, lose something? I'm not entirely sure. Apparently, they are going to once again drop off, though, and take care of that Changeling there, too. But the 4th base is now taken here by Hero, and he gets to play the game as he likes it. That means that Zerg now has 2 options. Either they let the Protoss just simply have this 4th base and go up against the late game focused Protoss army, or he goes for a big engagement and maybe even go for some run-bys into the natural, into the main base as well, by knocking down these buildings over here at the front. But it's going to be difficult. Hero is known to be extremely good when it comes to defending his bases. I mean, he's got Psionic Storm just about to finish up already. Great timing on that. And while the Zerg is now trying to go for a bit of a move across the map, apparently the gold base will be taken here as well. I think that Hero won't really have much of an issue when it comes to holding onto this 4th base location, as shield batteries as well as photon cannons are already being constructed here as well. And more and more High Templar are coming up too. Now there are a bunch of additional Stargates that have already been added on. I wonder if we are once again gonna see that switch around towards, you know, towards the carrier-based army. Supply-wise, though, Hero is actually surprisingly low here, but then again, it can be a little bit devious, as there are a ton of roaches already out, with 14 more just about to finish morphing in as well. So that, I think, is 32 or 30 here in total. Couple of them, yeah, no, actually, there's still a couple of them in production right there. But that does mean that Zerg plans on going for an engagement, because at this point in time, we do see Rogue maxing out. Now, luckily for Rogue, right when he is planning to go for a push, Protoss is also going for a bit of a move out. He may just simply try to go and knock down these rocks here to maybe connect his bases a little bit more confidently, and obviously he may very well open up the possibility here for a 5th base as well. But here we go, one of the first major engagements of this game. Perfect Psionic Storm there at the very first attempt. A couple of the roaches coming in from the back, they also immediately get shut down. And even though the supply count, right, of this Protoss army is not nearly as high, he does end up losing 1 Archon there. This army is extremely menacing, and these Hydras are really the only proper damage dealers that the Zerg has right now. Great concave setup though, once again. Couple of really nice storms that do come down as well, just simply zoning away this Zerg army as Protoss is transitioning now towards, once again, that fleet beacon inside of that main base. But here we go though, I think we still will see an engagement over here, but I don't really see how Zerg could possibly get a proper engagement off here, as just simply all of these units are getting picked off for what looks to be essentially free. At the same time, we see the Hive transition as well as the Spire coming up here for Rogue. So while both of these players are dancing here in the middle of the map, right, they're both trying to make themselves look really threatening and menacing. All things considered, neither of them really want to take a lethal engagement right now, as they are just simply trying to tech up towards a late game focused army. But now we do see Protoss starting to make a bit of a move for it, whereas part of that Zerg army decided to go for the run by. And here we go, they're immediately going to go after that cybernetics core. 2 or 3 sentries rather did get warped in, and they are going to be critical to shut down that front door. And while part of the Zerg army is now indeed trapped on the other side of the map, Protoss is going to be able to pick those off with absolute ease. And all of a sudden, we see Hero with a really nice supply lead there, as a couple of Zealots are trying to go for the run-by as well. Or not quite a supply lead, I suppose, but, well, actually, 20 Hydras just got produced as well. But regardless, that was a really nice engagement there that definitely allows Hero to get, once again, to that maxed out state that he loves so very much. And I actually like this one a lot. Look at that, right? Hero going for the 5th base that Protoss usually doesn't take. They usually don't take it at this point in the game. Once again, though, great storms coming up, and the amount of damage that Hero is dealing with this very, very, you know, menacing Protoss army is actually really strong. It's actually really sick. I mean, he's playing this super slowly, not really storming like his life depends on it, just slowly engaging, just slowly waiting out his time. He's now getting a mothership here as well, adding on additional gateways. Fleet Beacon is already done. Protoss can go for that transition right now towards, for example, carriers as well if he wants to. And really, this is right now, it seems to be like Hero's game to lose. Tempests are coming out. I like this a lot. Even though he hasn't really seen the Greater Spire morph, he already knows that there's a good chance, by the way that Rogue is playing this, that we will see that transition towards the Brute Lord here very shortly. And you know, Rogue, while he's got a sick economy as well, he is gonna be in a bit of a troubling scenario with all of these roaches as well. Now, apparently, the Hydras will try and go for a bit of a run-by. They do force that mass recall, but at the same time, Rogue, I mean, he still doesn't know about the base over here. It's so cheeky. Normally, you see them take the one over there. My god, there we go. He finally figures out exactly what went wrong all that time. He could have easily taken that out. Still, though, Rogue trying to run his opponent around, and I actually really like this move. Trying to just simply force this Protoss army to be in several different locations at once, as we do now see the Protoss units caught at a bit of a weird angle, but Storm will force them out of that as well. Tempests are coming out right now as well. We see Zealots being warped in. The mothership is just about a couple of seconds from finishing up, although it takes about 4.5 years to construct here in total. Both players really just testing the water, but Rogue is now making the transition to watch Hydralisks as well as more roaches, but supported by the mighty Brute Lord. Whereas on the other side of the map, we see Hero making the transition towards the carrier. And here indeed, we do have the mothership. Alright, so we get a late game, Zerg versus Protoss. Now, I have seen this quite a bit, but not all too much in the most recent patch of SC2 between two of the very best. I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. So Rogue is still, like, I'm actually quite surprised. He's still going for as many roaches as he has been. The fact of the matter is that roaches aren't very supply efficient. Usually they're not really the kind of unit that you want to max out on, just because they're not that great at the later stage of the game. But he's using them pretty smartly here for continuous smaller run-bys, right? Now, Hero apparently is now forced to get a bunch of these photon cannons set up as well. He does already have a very solid army here, all things considered. He's also now, you know, using those roaches to essentially pick up any of those run-bys. And here we once again see that small little army moving in. But I personally, right, whenever I'm in these kind of scenarios, as either the Protoss or the Zerg, I pretty much always have the Protoss win that scenario. Not gonna deny that fact. I mean, it's just simply true that the Protoss army, when maxed out, is terrifyingly strong. Rogue, apparently, though, he is not afraid of facing this army head-on, as he's already going for a stupid amount of Spore Crawlers. He's just simply adding on more drones, throwing away a bunch of roaches, buying himself time to go for a stupid amount of static defense as well. I really, really like this. We now see more and more upgrades coming out here for Rogue as well. Rather than engaging this army right now, he wants to buy as much time to get as many of those out as possible. 16 spores now on that production tab, but here we go. Protoss wants to take the first real major engagement here, as it is now close to maxing out. It is going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage, and while we have seen some skirmishing back and forth, once again, I thought that we were going to see a push there. It's mostly just players testing the waters, right? Trying to see if either of them overextended. It's almost like they looked at an army and he's like, hey, did you forget your Spore Crawlers today? Did you brush your teeth before bed? And Rogue said, yes, I did, Mom. And he's like, all right, fine, I'll go home then. Trying a different angle, though. Are you sure that you floss, right? Okay, you did floss as well. Okay, let me get back out of there. Right? Like, you can see the amount of respect, though, that these players are showing to each other, right? They know, just by playing against each other very regularly, that this is going to be a tough fight to win here from either side. And Rogue, he's most definitely not going to make the move out. Now, I love this. Sacrificing a couple of the units here of the Protoss army just to try and just simply take out a base or two can actually be game ending here eventually, as Protoss is going to try and bleed this Zerg player dry. Now the Hydras, though, will eventually get rid of a bunch of these Zealots, as well as the Immortals there, and the High Templar too, but the base is already gone. So that's gonna be worth it, right? And of course, these lost Zealots can now, and this lost supply really can now just simply be replaced. It can just simply be replaced with more and more units. Beautiful feedbacks there, though, and the Mothership even gets abducted too, but look how much HP it has. It's taken a bunch of damage, but really, it's not really done anything super critical there whatsoever. Couple of the Brute Lords ended up dealing some damage there too, but apparently Rogue realized that he doesn't want to overextend, as he just simply gets himself more and more of those Zerg upgrades. We now even see pathogen glands also being researched here by Rogue. That means he's probably going to be transitioning towards more and more of those infestors as well. So he's going to go for a Viper, Infestor, Queen, Corruptor, Spore Crawler, Brute Lord based army. Good luck trying to micro that. The same can be said here, though, for the Protoss player. He's got a lot of different units to manage. Overextension here is going to be the moment of the game that we will have to pay attention for. Neither of the players really want to take a risk. There is still a massive Zerg army, though, moving across the map, and this one will likely be used just for counterattacks. Gold base has just been taken here by Rogue, or by Hero, rather. He will be able to make use of that. The War Prism actually falls too, which is a big deal. That means that the counterattacks all of a sudden are going to be significantly less impressive. But really, there's not a ton of engagement so far. But here we go, once again. Protoss is going to try and push forward. We see a lot of great feedbacks, once again reducing the energy available on all of those Vipers. A single one of those carriers will end up falling, second one running extremely low as well. Solid Storm so far, though, really once again being careful about the way that he's engaging this, right? Just simply backing off. He doesn't want to fight on top of all of these Spore Crawlers, and I'm going to have to agree with him right there, but still, Rogue, he doesn't really want to fight without these Spores either. So he's asking the Protoss player to right now to come at him, but apparently Protoss once again is gonna go for the backup. I am starting to be a little bit worried here, though, because while Rogue has been doing a great job just simply holding on and not dying, he hasn't quite been capable of preventing the Protoss from getting this gold base up and running, and Protoss really has full map control right now. He also is starting to run very low on the minerals available, and I feel like that is exactly the situation that Protoss wants to be in right now. He knows that eventually, right, eventually this Zerg army will be bled dry. if he picks up a couple of units here and there, and the Zerg army is not going to be mining anymore, I mean, he's going to be in a world of hurt. More and more Corruptors are finishing up. A couple of these Spore Crawlers will be picked up right now for what is essentially free as well. Here come the Brutalers, though, from a bit of an interesting angle here as well. At the same time, apparently, the Mothership was trying to go for a bit of an harassment there. Of course, you can do a frontal recall if the Brutalers are way caught off guard. Now, all of the carriers, though, are target firing down all of these units to the best of their abilities. And here comes the forward recall. They're simply trying to get these units away from there. And apparently, he actually mass recalled them towards the other side of the map instead. So that was not quite a forward recall there by the Mothership. But still, a lot of this Protoss army managed to deal a lot of damage. And the Mothership and whatnot still are threatening here on the left-hand side of this map. Another base there ended up dying, right? And that means that Rogue will have less drones as well as a whole lot less resources. I wonder how he plans on engaging this, though, because if the thing is, right, Protoss essentially has a massive bank right now already, and he's going to be capable of getting a lot more resources. Here now, indeed, we do see a recall towards the Mothership. That means that all of a sudden, this Protoss army will be on the other side of the map, but it will not be going down just yet. Even additional Stargates are now being produced here as well by Hero. He's feeling really comfortable. Just simply making his own static defense here too. I'm actually quite surprised he hasn't made this base over here yet. He still has 70 plus workers, right? And all of these bases are starting to run rather low here on resources already. Zerg is now finally taking another base, and I think that is critical. That economy game, it's gonna be the one thing that can make or break the outcome of this match. While Protoss still has a large bank, they are going to eventually run out as well, in particular if you see this many static defensive structures coming up as well. Hero is one engagement away from losing this game if he does so improperly, but the late game focus so far by Rogue has not really quite been paying off just yet. It is critical for Hero to prevent this base from going up, and here we go. Once again, it looks like Zerg wants to fight and at the very least contest Protoss from simply taking out this base. A single group of zealots is going to try and engage onwards there as well. But it looks like Rogue has successfully deflected this Protoss army. And that means he's going to start mining from a new expansion. And he desperately needs it at this point in the game. Even remaking drones at the 21-minute mark. Here we go, though. The army will be revealed once again. Great Storm just softening up a whole bunch of these Brute Lords, but still the Brutes are providing so much value. The Vipers are now also moving forward. Great feedbacks though by Hero, preventing some of the scariest Zerg units there from abducting a few of these very crucial Stargate-based units. And while new Vipers are being constructed, this may very well be the moment that Hero was waiting for. Right now there are, well, besides the single Viper, right, there are no more scary units here in this Zerg army, but still, it is a very strong, powerful force, and if you overextend and your interceptors die, the game can be over very, very rapidly. Immortals now being recalled towards the base in the top corner of the map at the gold. Still a lot of Hydras and Roaches available though, just to simply pick off all of these Zealot Warpins. Hero continuously not maxing out, instead sitting around on 180 supply and using that additional supply to warp in a lot of these Zealots, but Hero is finally going to try and go for the sacrifice here, right? He doesn't want to have these units anymore. He wants to switch over to that maxed out Protoss army that's very, very scary. And at the same time, while he's engaging with the Archons and then, or rather the Zealots and the Immortals as well, he's also pushing into this newly acquired base for the Protoss, or for the Zerg player. 19 drones there though, 20 drones already going down. These Immortals, while they are mostly sacrificial right now, they're gonna be capable of taking care of a whole lot of these Zerg units. 28 Zerglings are now also produced as well, but I think that these Immortals are actually going to be able to just simply take care of a bunch of these bases. If they get the +3/+3 upgrade, that would be absolutely game ending. These 3/3 upgrades are crucial. At the same time though, Protoss is still maneuvering back and forth here. Zerg does not want to take the engagement off of creep away from these Spore Crawlers. So great micro so far, but 29 workers means that Rogue is slowly being bled dry. And while a lot more Zealots will get surrounded there as well, and the Zerglings find them, once they spawn, indeed, Rogue realized it. he is gonna be in trouble because he can no longer reinforce the army as he has just simply run out of resources. That was honestly one of the best late game Zerg vs Protosses that I've seen recently, and if you're new to the game, right, you may have looked at that and be like, yo, Lowko, we didn't really even see neither of those armies commit there, right? Like, what went wrong? Honestly, that was just Hero controlling his opponent very nicely. Hero is just simply expanding his own economy, building up that bank, while just simply trying to contain the Zerg player, not just on what we used to see in the past, right? Where we see like containments on 2 bases or on 3 bases, and sometimes we would see, you know, a player trying to hit a containment on 4 bases and just simply fail. In that previous match, like the continuous warp-ins with the Zealots and then the run-bys with the Immortals and whatnot, and then, you know, that single High Templar as well, it just simply made it so Zerg could no longer expand on the right-hand side of the map because the army was based around the Brute Lord, and that meant that really all that Protoss needed to worry about was about 6 bases, but staying in control and trying to bleed a Zerg player out on that many bases is extremely difficult. That was so well played there, and while we didn't quite see the clash there of the army, I hope I did a good job trying to explain what was going on there and, you know, why that was such a high-level move. I mean, it's very easy to just simply, you know, use the F2 key to select all of your army and, you know, just attack move right on top of one of your opponent's bases and try and just simply YOLO all of your units in there. Usually, that's not the correct option, and we're actually starting to see that kind of play a whole lot more in, you know, the late game of Zerg vs Protoss in particular. It's quite fascinating, though, because the fact of the matter is that a lot of games are decided in the early game, but sometimes we see these games just drag on for long amounts of time where neither player is particularly ahead. Right? And it's so difficult to actually make that decision. Now the probe, though, is trying its very best there to hug that drone. The drone didn't want to hug at all. He's like, get away from me. I don't want to hug. Get away from me. I want to make a hatchery. Exactly. So Rogue will be able to start out with that quick 3rd hatchery here as well, after the hatch gas pool already went down here in game number 3 on Acid Plant. Now, this is gonna be the decisive game of this series. Of course, Rogue already had a match point previously, but apparently he was not quite capable of picking that one up. I'm curious though, does Rogue once again want to play the late game, right? He's always been known as a late game player, and people have called him the best late game player of all time. But, I mean, in the previous game, it seemed like he just got shut down. I mean, he played it very well. He didn't really make any mistakes. He was waiting for Hero to overextend or to mess up. That just simply never happened, and then he died, right? That's kind of what happened there. I mean, his opponent just never really messed up, and then eventually he didn't have a proper answer for that mass Stargate-based army. Eventually, Rogue just didn't have enough stuff, and he lost, right? He lost a couple of pieces here and there, and you know, Rogue just simply didn't have the army there, or the maxed out state of it, to try and deal with all of the run-bys and the shenanigans that Protoss was trying to throw at him. I'm curious to see, though, what that means for Rogue in this particular match. Does he once again want to focus on that late-game army? I honestly wouldn't be surprised. If he once again plays the exact same style. Usually whenever players, you know, get into like these clutch situations, they will either go for something completely out of the ordinary and go for like a hyper-aggressive cheese. We have seen Rogue do that many a times as well, where he just simply goes for like a, you know, a 13-12 or whatever in the final stages of a tournament. But, you know, oftentimes whenever players are in these kind of scenarios, they will resort back to their, you know, personally strongest play style. And for Rogue, that's most definitely his late game. So we'll have to see what it is that he wants to go for in this particular game. Now, Hero has already decided what it is that he wants to go for. He doesn't have an Overlord inside of the main base, but Hero already is transitioning now to watch that 4 gateways into the robotics facility with the Dark Shrine. So that means that we will be seeing some Archon drops. More than likely, this will be followed up with a 3rd base shortly as well by the Protoss player. So this is going to be Dark Templar into Archon drops, and already we see the Roach Warren being constructed here for Rogue. Interestingly enough, for the longest time, Rogue was one of the biggest advocates of getting himself that very quick... Ooh, nice little play here, actually. But he used to be one of the biggest advocates of... Ooh, cheeky. He used to be one of the biggest advocates of going for that Baneling Nest first. Apparently this time around, though, not quite going to be the case. Now, Hero was forced there to show the Warp Prism. So I think that already, just by simply judging the timing of that, Rogue knows exactly what it is he's going up against. First Dark Templar is now warped in as well. or I guess the first 4 of them, they're going to be able to deal a little bit of damage here and there. I highly doubt that Rogue is going to take any kind of critical damage, as indeed the lair timing was absolutely spot on. The Overseer finishes, and while he's still going to try and do a little bit of damage here, I mean, the Dark Templar can still deal quite a bit of it as well. The damage here is probably going to be neglected or mitigated at the very least here for the time being. Nice bit of micro so far though, man. The pickup micro has been solid. And while there's technically detection, right, the Dark Templar deal a stupid amount of damage already. That was actually a pretty significant amount of units there. Yeah, 22 Zerglings in total. Very, very solid. That was nicely done there. I guess that's what happens when you're one of the best micro players on the planet, right? At the same time, though, Zerglings are going for the run by towards that 3rd base expansion. Really nicely done. We see the Morphin right there of an additional Overseer here too, as the Dark Templar, of course, can also be used defensively as well. We don't have any additional upgrades on these links just yet, but there are a lot of them. At the same time, though, the Archons are already dealing a little bit of damage here at the 3rd base location of the Zerg player. Hydras are out right now, and they're going to be able to force this Warp Prism back home. Great defense so far by Rogue, as he also will force the Council on that 3rd base location. Very well done there. I'm actually quite impressed with the way that he did that, right? Like, that was a pretty minor move there, but just simply going for the run by there while you're already under pressure from a bunch of Dark Templar and deciding to just simply send your Zerglings on an own patrol mission, right? Because you know that your defensive units will be able to just simply reinforce the bases instead. It's pretty smart. Now, at the same time, oh my god, I can't believe I missed that. The Zerglings somehow, some way managed to get into the main base now. This is one of those things that can easily be neglected. And, you know, while apparently not a lot of probes will go down here, it's only 2 so far. Oh my god, that micro from Hero is ridiculous. He's also now still sending, you know, the Archons across the map. There was still a bunch of lost mining time, and every little bit adds up very, very quickly. Now, at the same time, though, a lot of lost mining time here on the other side of the map as well. 3rd Nexus will be taken, but this one is actually misplaced, if I'm not mistaken, right? It needs to be in the center of that square. That is quite unfortunate, and while apparently Rogue did already set up a bit of a hit squad of Hydralisk there too to try and snipe that Warp Prism, so far he hasn't quite been able to do that, as these Protoss units are just trying to just simply continuously deal a little bit of harassment damage. Now, once again, right, links are committed on that 3rd base location. It will be shut down, but it's misplaced. It's misplaced. This adds up very quickly, and Hero probably looks at this right now as well, and you must realize that it's not in the correct location. At this point, though, you don't really cancel it anymore, right? Because that's going to cost you a lot more resources, but that does mean that there's going to be less room for gateway usage. I mean, we see how many gateways right now in total? I think there's about 6 or so here, maybe 8 or maybe 7 or so in total. He's probably not going to be able to make use of those, even when this base is fully saturated, just because of the fact that, you know, he doesn't have the optimal amount of mining. And here, Zerg comes out as well. Psionic Storm is done. He has to be very careful. Perfect storm there, hitting the bullseye on top of all of these Hydralisk, and that will force these units back home. Of course, we recently did see the nerf to the Hydralisk, where no longer do the Hydras get both of the upgrades from a single research there. So Rogue is not quite going to be capable of microing these units back, as he decided to go for the ranged upgrade, the Grooved Spines upgrade first. Muscular Augments, though, just about to finish. We also now do see that Lurker Den being researched. Zerglings are going to try and see if they can maybe go for a bit of a run by, while the Hydras are still threatening the engagement here at the 3rd base as well. It is very easy to overextend now, though, for a Zerg player, and at no point of this game has Protoss been significantly behind, but this can be over extremely quickly. Archons managed to snipe that single Overseer, nicely done. That base is still running extremely low. You don't really want to quite commit, though, but at the same time, the Zerglings are now going in, and the Zealot that was holding the front door has now been pulled away as well. Zerglings immediately streaming into the natural expansion. A single one of these Archons will get surrounded as well. Not a ton of damage has been done just yet. I'm quite surprised that Rogue isn't at the same time pushing the 3rd base location, but still, this is one of those things that becomes a massive pain in the butt, as Zerg is going to be able to pick up a couple of these upgrades. He's going to be able to pick up a few units here and there. He forces a lot of lost mining time as well, and while the defense is pretty much as good as it could have been right there, right? Only 7 probes there in total. That still allowed Rogue to get himself a lot of additional time, and guess what Zerg unit takes a lot of time to make? we have the Zerg Lurker now moving across the map. There are 13 of them in total, and while there is definitely a very scary Protoss army here as well, this base is still at a very low amount of HP. These spines will reach up to the high ground. Here we have the Hydra Lurker composition that Brood Wars players still absolutely adore. It's quickly gaining popularity in StarCraft 2 as well, and it looks like Hero may very well just simply try to sacrifice that third base location, as it will go down in just a matter of seconds. Protoss is going for the counter attack instead. We will be seeing a base trade at this point in the game, and I think that that is actually a very smart move. Hero, he knows that he's not going to be able to deal with this army, but he may very well be able to take care of his opponent's army faster than the other way around. Zerg still has a couple of bases that are mining right now, but this army will be able to make short work of that very, very rapidly. Lurkers now moving towards that natural and the main base as well. They're going to be able to take care of that economy of the Protoss very, very rapidly. At the same time though, Protoss is now moving towards the third as well as the natural of the Zerg player. Those bases will go down extremely quickly. Zerg is already preparing now with additional bases that are being taken. Protoss is doing the exact same thing. Natural and main base of the Protoss will fall in due time. Zerglings are now gonna try and go for the runaway as well, but I love this. Look at that. Rogue is prepared to defend the main base. He just managed to snipe one of the observers, which is critical. Spine crawlers as well as lurkers are waiting on the high ground, and at the same time, right, while the Dark Templar right there as well as his Zealot buddy will be able to take out one of the bases as well as the other one right here near the north, Zerg has still got a very scary army, and I can't help but look at this, right, and think that Zerg has got way too much stuff to try and deal with that. Great mass recall there. Hero is gonna try and save whatever is left over of the main base. There's only the main base right now available for Rogue as well. He lost all of the other bases, but he's now pulled the defensive lurkers away from that too, and he's gonna try and set up for a bit of a, I guess, a lurker surround, trying to get these units into the proper position as this Protoss army is quickly running out of juice. Still, perfect force field there, really making this doable. Are there any observers? There are no observers available. There are no observers available here. Protoss has no way of seeing this army. Am I blind? I don't think there's a single observer on that unit tab, right? And that means that Hero's best chance of winning this game right now are once again on the other side of the map. He has to try and kill this Zerg army, but he's got no option for that, so his best next option is just to simply try and take care of all of these leftover Zerg structures. Now, there's not actually a ton of them. Are there any drones out on the map? There are a couple of them. There's actually a whole bunch of them over here next to all of these lurkers. I think they are going to be critical as the main base will be in some trouble as well. Rogue needs to construct himself another unit. He needs to construct himself another one of these structures because he's quickly losing the main base right now as well. And a hatchery indeed does get taken. There are still a couple of probes available here as well. There are still, of course, a few structures here for the Protoss player as well. But I look at this and I don't see how Protoss could possibly obtain the victory. Right now, Hero is putting all of his eggs in one basket. He's hoping that this is gonna be the final base of the Zerg, but right now, upon taking care of these units, he must have realized that that is not the case. The Roach Warren will bleed out as well, and while apparently the War Prism will load up a couple of High Templar, oh my god, yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. The Roach Warren falls, and there is no message on the screen right now that will confirm the revelation of the last of the Zerg structures. So Hero now knows that there is gonna be a newly acquired hatchery, and this one is indeed now guarded with a whole lot of these lurkers as well. That means that this army that we see for Protoss is going to be the last of it. There's still that Nexus inside of the main base as well. Hero is actually gonna mass recall to that. I didn't quite realize that that is what happened there. Like, neither have we seen the revelation message just yet here for you know, the... Oh my... Wow, okay, that was really risky there. Neither have we seen the revelation message the other way around here either. There are still a lot of lurkers available, though, and I think that... I mean... You know, let's look at this objectively, right? How exactly are you gonna deal with all of these lurkers when you have no detection? It's just not gonna happen. I mean, sure, these storms are real good, but they're not gonna be able to take care of this, although he is gonna try and target fire down the last of the Zerg structures. He's gonna target fire down the hatchery. The hatchery is running low, but it was not enough. Hero made a last-ditch effort to try and kill the last structures of the Zerg player there, and interestingly enough, he almost managed to as well. That was surprisingly close, all things considered. Man, maybe I was leaning a little bit too much right there to Rogue. Hero definitely needs to be given some credit there as well, right? I mean, while on paper, the armies definitely couldn't clash, Hero was running his opponent around, right? Forcing his opponent to be all over the map. And when, of course, the Protoss also was not revealed yet, Rogue may have made the assumption that there is gonna be a mining base somewhere in the corner, right? And it can become very scary very quickly. Beautiful decision making right there by Hero, but it was not quite enough as Rogue obtains the victory here in game number 3, and with that becomes the victor of this series. I hope you enjoyed watching it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get a notification as soon as I upload more. Other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright, and I will see you in the next one.